Really have quorum. Okay. It's an important meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's Arts Advisory Committee meeting. We do have the live stream up and running, and we do have quorum now. Everyone came at once. Madam Vice Chair, I am just going to quickly run through and do an introduction of who's on the call with us today. So again, I confirm we do have quorum, and it looks like all committee members are present at the moment. I don't see Anne or Jillian though. So staff members with us today are Danica Lockheed, Manager, Arts and Sector Development, Taylor Norris, Public Art Coordinator, Elizabeth Fawcett is our meeting host this morning, as well as myself, Julia McCarty-Jansman, Committee Clerk. We also have Felix Lee joining us today as well from KAC, and we currently have no members of the public with us in the gallery. So Madam Vice Chair, I'll turn it to you and to begin the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll call the meeting to order. And if I could have someone move approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Neal and Tim. All those in favor? No additions, changes? Okay. And confirmation of the minutes of the meeting September 23rd. Need a mover and seconder, please. Tim, and second. I need a seconder. Mark, do you want to? Thanks. Okay, any any changes, omissions? Everything was good. Okay, motion to approve the minutes, please. Or sorry, vote to approve the minutes, please. Good. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I see none. And we have no delegations, but we are going to get a briefing from Felix on the City of Kingston Arts Plan that we need to discuss and hopefully approve today. So Felix, or Danica, did you want to introduce Felix, or we'll just go?
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, I mean, Felix can kick us off. Felix is the grants coordinator for the Kingston Arts Council, familiar to mostly everyone on this committee. And the Arts Council has gone through their regular annual review process of the City of Kingston Arts Fund. Can't believe it's yet another year. So Felix will just take this committee through some of the changes that have been proposed to the plan for administration.
Yes, if I have the floor to speak.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'll go ahead. Thank you, Danica, for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to present the 2022 Plan for Administration of Arts Funding for the Corporation of the City of Kingston, which I am now going to refer only as the Plan for Admin. As Danica said, I'm Felix. Most of you have met me many times already. I'm the grants coordinator for the Kingston Arts Council. And this year, the KAC is completing its annual review of the City of Kingston Arts Fund, or CCAF. The Plan for Admin is the foundation of this program, and per our service level agreement with the city, every year we meet with jurors, representatives from arts organizations and collectives, community members, artists, and City of Kingston staff to review the Plan for Admin and discuss potential revisions. Based on this review and our own insights as administrators of this program, we developed the draft Plan for Admin, which is then presented to and approved by our Board of Directors, the Arts Advisory Committee, the Arts Recreation Community Policies Committee, and Kingston City Council. So today I am presenting the draft 2022 Plan for Admin for your consideration and approval. First, I would like to provide a little bit of context about this year's review and the proposed changes. As the AAC has heard in the past, in 2020, we and the city both recognized the unprecedented impact of COVID-19, and we had an expanded consultation process last year. So the lead up to the 2021 CCAF was a little bit unusual. We had roundtables, we did a public survey, and we additionally consulted with the committees. The outcome of that process led to a number of significant changes for the 2021 Plan for Admin, which were implemented for 2021 operating and project grants, which proceeded on schedule as they are intended to. We also, as many of you know, administered $200,000 in one-time pandemic relief funding from the City of Kingston through 2 new grants in 2021. Those are Resiliency and Adapt. Those were developed from a framework that was separately approved by the city in March of this year. And so those 2 one-time funding programs are not described in the 2022 Plan for Admin. This year, to draft the 2022 plan, we considered the continued impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, the new needs that were facing our arts community, and we sought feedback from our board of directors, the grants committee at its meeting on the 21st of September, the Arts Advisory Committee at your meeting on the 23rd of September, and additionally from applicants and recipients of this program throughout the year, and of course, City of Kingston Arts and Culture Services staff. As a result of that work done to date, we have developed the draft plan, which was submitted to you with the agenda for this meeting, and all of the changes to the document are highlighted. This draft has already been approved by the KAC's Board of Director with no revision on the 21st of October, 2021. I do want to highlight some of the significant changes to the document. The first is that additional eligibility text has been added in C1D for operating and C2F for project. This clarifies that receiving a resiliency or ADAPT grant in 2021 does not impact eligibility for 2022 operating or project grants. So for example, a collective that had applied in 2021 to the separate ADAPT program can still apply for a new project in 2022 project grants. We have also revised the purpose of the project program that appears in C2A. This revision clarifies the intention of project grants and the type of acceptable applications. The language in this change was drawn from the existing adjudication criteria. Projects must demonstrate engagement with the Kingston community, and they must engage professional artists and pay artist fees. Perhaps the most significant change this year is that we will be accepting applications to project grants from individual professional artists. You'll see this change appear throughout the C2 project section, including C2C, D, and E. The process for this is that they may submit a direct or sponsored application similar to the procedure for unincorporated collectives. They must meet the same insurance and reporting requirements, and their proposed projects must meet the criteria described in C2A. So all project applications must meet that intended project description. In accordance with this change, we've also updated the definition of a professional artist, which appears in the glossary Appendix C. This definition has already been used in the program, and we are formalizing it for use in operating and project grants. There are also additional language clarifications throughout the document that you may have noted. These are to reflect current practices and, more importantly, to improve understanding for jurors and for applicants of those practices. And that concludes my summary of the significant changes to the document. I am able to answer questions and hear feedback on this document at this time, and I would like to thank the committee again for allowing me to present this morning.
Thank you, Felix, for that comprehensive review. There were quite a few changes, and thanks for the yellow highlighter. So I'd like to throw it open to the committee for questions or comments, since we do need to do a thorough analysis in this group so that hopefully we can pass it on today to the Arts and Recreation Committee. So are there questions for Felix? I have a couple. One is, now that it's going to be thrown open to so many more, how is the capacity for the Kingston Arts Council in terms of staffing? I know you must have had quite the year last year. How are you doing in terms of being able to handle this big increase?
We're doing well. We are very excited about the expansion of the program. We think that it's making a really significant impact on the arts community. And so we're really happy to see this kind of growth for CCAF, especially during this really difficult, unusual time. I would say that we don't anticipate there to be a astronomically different number of applications. We have had some experience now with running the ADAPT program. ADAPT accepted applications from individual artists, collectives, and incorporated nonprofits. So it was structured similarly to the system that will be used for projects in 2022. And we actually received an almost identical number of applications to ADAPT that we normally would in a typical project year. So we're, with that indication, not anticipating a huge increase. There will be some increase, but we think it's well within our capacity at the Arts Council for sure.
That's good. My other comment, while I was looking through the ADAPT and the other grants, were $1,000 was the maximum, I understand. And now the project grants, it's going to be a $5,000 minimum. So have you had any artists saying we don't know how to apply for that much more money, or is that a problem at all?
So the $1,000 was for resiliency. So that program was relief funding for individual artists to allow them to continue working. The ADAPT program had a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 10.
Okay.
So yeah, it is comparable to what we would see in the project program. Project has a minimum of 5, maximum of 15, but average grant size is typically between 8 and 12 in that program. So we think that, again, with the experience of running ADAPT, that we have a really solid foundation and understanding of what that application from an individual would look like.
Good, thank you. Are there any questions for Felix? Seeing none. Anne, is that your hand?
Hi, can you hear me all right, Liz and Felix?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm actually doing the residency at the Grand that was opened up by Danica and Colin, and a big thank you for that program. It's incredible. But Felix, I'm sorry I missed the first part of your presentation. I looked over your report and it was excellent. The changes are, from my understanding, you've done a number of things that will make it much easier for people to access these grants. So way to go, you and the rest of the Arts Council. I wanted to bring up 2 equity points just for consideration and debate. One is the $5 million liability insurance. My understanding is that can be a pretty significant barrier, especially for people who aren't as privileged as I am, or the organizations that I work with, the Skeleton and Park Arts Festival. They've got their $5 million. So I had a suggestion, which was, what if we create 2 categories of applicants? One is you could tick a box if you've got your $5 million professional indemnity insurance, and you can tick a box if you don't. And if you don't, then I would be happy to work with the city solicitor to create what's called indemnification documents, which would save the city in case there was any liability. I don't know, what do you guys think of that? First, this is my first of 2 equity-based ideas, but this one would deal with the requirement to have the $5 million liability insurance, which my husband Greg assures me is a major obstacle for some groups.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can quickly answer, and then I think Danica probably wants to speak to the city's requirements here. In terms of insurance, just to review some of the changes that I think were kind of alluded to, was that last year we did change the insurance requirement so that recipients have to provide proof or a quote for their insurance. So they don't have to pay upfront for the insurance policy before the funds are released, which was a barrier that we had identified in the past. And that was removed for the 2021 cycle and will continue for 2022. So that is still the case, that we will accept either a quote for or proof of the insurance policy. That being said, the insurance policy is still required. It's not a removal of that requirement, which I think is what is being tabled at this point. Danica, do you want to have any comment on that?
Thanks, Felix. And thanks, Annie, for the question and the sort of the suggestion about indemnification versus insurance. And what I can do at this point, the reality is that the insurance has been a requirement of the city for this program since it was created. As Felix said, the program has evolved to remove some of the barriers around insurance, and something else that Felix and the Arts Council do offer through CCAP is that sponsor organizations can also cover applicants in terms of their insurance, which many do, just sort of working with partner organizations to help cover those costs. But what I can offer at this point is that I can reach out to our manager of insurance and risk and have this conversation about indemnity versus insurance and where the city lies on that, as I do not have an answer for this committee in terms of what are the challenges around indemnification in regards to this program specifically. So it's something I can offer to do and then come back to this committee and also work with the Arts Council to see if there's any changes around this that could be implemented through the guidelines for this program in 2022. Yeah, I'll leave it at that because I think that's really where I'm at in terms of next steps on this, Annie, and can certainly report back to this group.
Sure, and you can't see me, but I'm nodding at everything you're saying. And Danica, I've worked for some community garden groups, which also has an insurance requirement, and they've been able to negotiate no insurance requirement with indemnification documents. So just that's a bit of a precedent that I've had the opportunity to be part of. Do you mind if I bring up another equity-based topic?
Can I just interrupt for 1 second because Tim has a response or a comment? And then we'll go to your next one.
Quick question for my information. What would be the ballpark added expense for somebody needing that kind of insurance or indemnification normally?
Would you know, Felix or Danica?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer anecdotally. I haven't done a formal survey of the costs for the past 5 years, et cetera. Anecdotally, typical insurance costs are in the hundreds of dollars. A very low insurance cost, for example, would be $300. A high insurance cost would be approaching $1,000. But part of the issue is that this program funds a really wide variety of projects with very different scope. So some projects have quite complex insurance policies because they're dealing with live performance, circus, fire dancers. They're even large format concerts that serve alcohol have very different insurance requirements. So there is a pretty significant range in terms of the cost depending on the type of policy that's required. But that I would say is a typical ballpark figure for what the upfront cost is. And that was one of the reasons that we shifted away from requiring that upfront cost before the release of funds.
Thank you. Thank you. That's helpful.
Thanks. Annie, do you want to do your second?
Sure, and I think this is an easy one. So Felix, I'm sorry if you feel like I'm giving you the gears here, but the partnering option, obviously for a not incorporated not-for-profit group to partner with an incorporated not-for-profit group is such a strength of the program, and it's been such a strength historically. Something that has been coming to my attention through some equity work I've had the pleasure of being part of is that people who are less privileged tend to be less networked. And so I was wondering if a group who maybe wasn't as networked as, say, like myself or KPP or any of the groups that we work with could have the option of calling up the Arts Council and saying, hi, I'm a group. I don't know any partner organizations. I'm young, or I'm new to the city. I just moved here from God knows where, whatever, or I've recently been released from incarceration. And I wondered, Felix, do you think the Arts Council could take on kind of helping foster partnerships in that way?
So, I mean, I think this is honestly more of a communications issue because we do that. So I would say it's not being promoted or communicated adequately, but it is something that does happen. Anytime I have a meeting with a new artist, regardless of their experience level, but obviously particularly if they're emerging, or a newly formed collective, I typically suggest meeting one-on-one with me. I go through the program, I talk about their different application options, I discuss sponsorship with them. I usually ask them if they have a sponsor in mind, if there's a nonprofit they've worked with before that they're familiar with. If they say no, there are a number of nonprofits in our network that I have discussed sponsorship with. It's a conversation that I have had with quite a few organizations that have received funding from us in the past. So I usually have in my mind a list of potential candidates that might be interested in doing that type of work. And so that introduction can be facilitated by the Kingston Arts Council. I think there is room for improvement in that as well, in terms of from that introduction point forward, the sponsor and the applicant would have to negotiate that relationship on their own. So for particularly, I think this equity perspective, addressing those type of issues, I do understand that that still presents a barrier if you have never worked with a large nonprofit before and you're not sure what a typical sponsorship or mentorship relationship should look like. So I agree that that could definitely be expanded, but absolutely, and it is something that we do offer at this time in a non-formalized way. It's an ongoing conversation that we've tried to improve access to that through our network at the KAC.
Amazing. Okay, thanks, Felix. I knew you'd have that one. And if you're ever talking to an unincorporated group that wants a lawyer's assistance in sorting out a relationship with a not-for-profit, please pass them my name. And I'll tell Greg that already exists. And thanks, that's all.
Good, thank you. Jim?
Just curious, and this is probably a question for Anne. A letter of indemnification. How does that operate? And the reason I ask is that the city of Kingston, unless they've changed their policy, in fact, we are self-insured. We insure ourselves on virtually everything. Not sure if we've insured ourselves on the bridge, for instance, but all reasonable issues within the city, we we cover our own insurance. So Annie, how does indemnification work?
Oh, sure. So say Danica and I are walking along the road together and we're holding a sign that's on a pole and we're both holding one end, okay? And so I walk into a little old lady and she falls over and she breaks her hip. So the little old lady is going to sue both Danica and myself because we're both holding the pole, right? It's probably more my fault, but because Danica was there holding the pole, Danica also gets sued. So in terms of a court case, there's two parties. They're called me and Danica. So indemnification is a way where Danica and I could write letters to each other saying, hey, look, if we get sued because we're walking down the street holding this pole, I'm not going to pay any of your costs and you're not going to pay any of my costs. And so in the context of the city and a partner group, it would be the partner group. Again, let's pretend it's me and Danica as our group. Let's pretend we signed a letter of indemnification with the city and we're carrying a pole that's owned by the city. And the pole is what hits the little old lady. So the little old lady is also going to sue the city. But Danica and I have these indemnification letters with the city. So anything that Danica and I did that's our fault, the city doesn't pay for. So unless the city made a faulty pole that somehow caused injury, otherwise the injury is our fault. So indemnification is just a way to protect parties who are partnering from paying for one another's liabilities or harm. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? So what it does for like a community garden group, for example, the ones I've worked for, is they say, look, we'll take accountability if someone steps on a rake and injures themselves. The city doesn't have to pay if someone gets harmed from that. And it's a way that they can then not have insurance because they're saying we'll pay. And I think the reality, Jim, of the city, meaning it's self-insured, meaning the city doesn't actually have insurance, right? You guys just pay things out. And I think the reality of many community garden groups or artists is they don't actually have insurance. They would just have to pay for it. There's other issues there. If I didn't explain that very clearly, let me know and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, you explained it well. I just have to say, I know now why I never went to law school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? I'll just,
I believe Alicia has her.
Oh, sorry, Alicia.
Sorry, it's hard to tell sometimes if those hands are visible when they're like in part of your white wall. I just have a question, and it's actually about one of the non-highlighted bits, just for clarification. In light of the aftermath of the ADAPT grants, I know that organizations who were recipients of ADAPT grants can apply for either operational or project grants, but it does continue to be the case that organizations receiving operating grants are not eligible for project grants in the same year. That's correct, right? And then there is a line that, however, organizations may apply for both. Is that sort of like a safeguard? If they don't get one, they'll get the other, or okay?
Yes, that's exactly correct. So an ADAPT grant would allow you to apply for operating if you're an operating recipient. It won't affect that application. But that clause is in there because typically most frequent situation in the past 10 years has been that new operating applicants are already project recipients. So often when they're trying to move into the operating stream out of project, they will apply to both. Operating is always adjudicated first. So if you are successful in receiving that operating grant, your project grant is discarded because you can't receive both in the same year. If you do not receive the operating grant, your project grant is adjudicated as it would have otherwise been, as if you never applied to operating. So that allows them that flexibility to apply to both and not have to essentially put all their chips on one application. That's really the purpose of it. The reverse could be true, I suppose, if you know it couldn't, because if you wouldn't envision someone moving out of operating into projects. So they would have to withdraw from operating. That would be a different process. So that is, it's exactly its intention.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Because we will be bringing, Jim?
Just quickly, I want to thank Danica and Felix for adding that provision to recognize professional artists. My ex-wife is a professional musician and a children's author, and I was a patron of the arts because she never made very much money in either of those things. If you're the second oboe in the symphony, you're a professional, but you're probably below the poverty line. So this recognizes, and I doubt if Drake or Springsteen will ever apply for a Kingston Arts grant, but the reality is that we can recognize good projects from professional, and I'll put that in quotation marks, who can really use that assistance. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. I think we all agree on that point. Now, to the business. We need to decide if we're going to accept the Kingston Arts Council plan for the administration of the funding. So I would need a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Tim Fort. Any further discussion? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. So that passes. That can move on to the next step before you get deluged. Our next item is the Mayor's Arts Award Nomination Working Group report, which was a very thorough report with mention of all the meetings that have gone on. Tim, I think you're the chair. Do you have any comments? Or Danica? Go ahead.
I'd just like to say again, as I've said to the group I had over and over, that it was exactly how you'd like any committee or any group to work. It was very collegial. I learned a lot from working with the other people who had other perspectives, but it was all incredibly generous and thoughtful, and it was a great experience. This does not mean I want to continue volunteering for any committees, but that was a real pleasure. And the rest is in the report, but I was very pleased with how it turned out. I think there was a good balance and
Good, thank you. And Danica, do you want to give a note on when the awards will take place, and will they be in public?
Yes, thanks, Liz. And first, I want to thank Tim and the rest of the members of this nominations working group. We say it every year, but it is a very challenging working group to be a part of. There are so many potential nominees for this program. So a big thank you for this working group for all the work over the summer. And it's a very exciting list of recipients for the 2021 program. The event is going to be a hybrid event. So we are going to have a limited in-person audience this year. Last year, we went full virtual. And obviously in the past, we've met together in Memorial Hall at City Hall. But this year, we're going to have a very small audience, sort of invitation only, and we'll include the recipients of the program and the members of the nominations working group, as well as sort of some city staff, and the mayor of Kingston will be there. The event will then be live streamed out to the public. And so that will be the access point for everyone this year, just in recognition of the continued challenges we're facing here in Kingston with the pandemic, and looking to explore this hybrid model this year. So the event is going to be held Monday, December the 6th at 7 p.m. And we're going to be at the Tut Center this year. So Brianne, we're coming out to see you. You know, really just wanting to be in an art space this year, obviously, and in a sort of a smaller space that's better suited to our capacity numbers. So we hope that everyone can tune in, and I will be sure to share the event link with everybody on this committee.
Good, thank you very much. And it'll be exciting to find out again this year who won. We have one other report, the art in public places. Taylor, do you have some comments for us? I know you're there.
There she is.
Hi there.
Hi.
Sorry about that.
Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you too. It's good to see everybody. Yeah, so we have a brief art in public places review for you. So we have formed as a new group for our next phase of the, oh, sorry, I'm getting a notification here. Can you guys all see me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, great. So yeah, Danica and I have reviewed the terms of reference for the Art in Public Places Working Group and built a new group based on those terms of reference with various community members. So as you can see in the attached minutes, our newly formed group is quite robust, and we've got a bunch of new members to represent various stakeholder groups for public art within the city of Kingston, including artists, community members, arts workers, and business representatives as well. So we had our first meeting, and we basically just reviewed the entire public art program and the goals for the group. And yeah, we're excited to get started. Our next meeting is on November 15th. We've got a new work plan ready to go. And that's it for, that's the update. We're excited to get into gear, and I'll have more for you at our next AAC meeting. But yeah, so Era, hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say I don't seem to be getting notifications. I didn't know there had been a meeting, and I didn't know there's another meeting coming up. So,
what is the best email to reach you at? It's possible that I've just got my wires crossed.
artistic director at kingstonwritersfest.ca.
Okay, artistic. Okay, I will change your contact.
Okay. Because I don't want to miss the meetings.
No, I know. Okay, I'll double check because I haven't been getting a bounce back for that email. So is it possible it's going to your spam?
I haven't seen anything in spam, and I checked again after getting the minutes, but
okay. So I'll follow up on that right now and just make sure I've got the right thing and forward everything to you as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
Great, thanks. And might I say, I'm sure other people are getting comments pretty regularly about the public art that's appearing in Kingston and that they really appreciate it. We go to the Spirit Walk all the time and it's just filled in beautifully with the plants. And that the sculpture in Victoria Park survived okay, as it's such a robust piece of art. I remember when I saw it, I went, holy, that's really built. And then I realized, good.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. And then we have the Wilds of Kingston going in the ground for the end of this month as well. So we'll have lots of media notices about that once that's installed at the corner of Princess and Division. And then, yeah, Danica and I are excited to get into our next public art master plan and planning for 2022 forward.
Great. Are there any other comments on the public art working group? Okay, well, thanks for everyone that works on it because, as I say, it's been very successful from what I can see.
Yes, I'm gonna duck out then. So thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon. And Era, I'll follow up with you right now. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. We now have we've reached the end of our agenda. There are no motions, no notices of motion, any other business. And the next meeting will be at the call of staff, I believe, because we've done our major work. The Arts Fund can move on. Okay, thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn. Jim and Dean and Owen, Gary. There we go. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.